Hello and welcome back to part 4 of the Cybiko Repair-A-Thon series. Quick recap of where we left off in the last video is that we still had several non-functional units. We have this Generation 1 or launch model unit. This one was turning on and booting up. The other 3 units here, this other V1 and these 2 V2 units, were not starting up at all. This one does have that, kind of destroyed black screen, but may still be useful for some purposes later on. So some things have changed between the last video and now. And so I just want to get into a few things that have not worked at all. A number of those things are these adapters in an attempt to read the flash of the Cybiko or read the flash of the expansion card interface. This has just simply been a dead end, and although it was fun to try, it's time to move on to other things. And move on they did, because I even tried to order some different flash chips that seemed to be compatible until you really dig into the data sheet and some of the things that the Cybiko uses. Namely, that is a special signal that is not on the 8-pin variant of these flash chips, these serial flash chips, and that is the ready busy line, which is apparently used by the Cybiko bootloader and the operating system pretty extensively, to the point where it won't even detect these types of flash chips. And I tried this a bunch of different ways. Figured hooking this up through the expansion card interface would be the easiest way, just because the pinout is so different and the pins so very tiny on the flash chips on the Cybiko. But this was also a bust. So I got out the expansion card that we had opened up in previous video, and I was looking at the flash chip and decided to pop off the flash chip from this expansion card and place it into one of these Cybikos. And guess what? That worked. So one of these units has been upgraded to a full 1 megabyte of internal storage over the previous 512K. And I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and replace the flash in the other 2 dead Cybikos with these brand new 16 megabit, 2 megabyte flash chips that should be compatible. They are compatible with the footprint. They are called out in the data sheet as potentially being a replacement part. So we're going to find out if these have any issues. And then at the end of it, we will restore our expansion card by placing one of these 2 megabyte chips inside of it to also have an upgraded expansion card. So let's take a closer look at that Cybiko I fixed and go over a few of the other things that I want to accomplish in this video. Okay, so here we have our repaired Cybiko with the 1 megabyte flash chip that we took from the expansion card. So if you were the lucky one who guessed that it was the yellow or green unit that I repaired, you are absolutely right. This is the one that I had as a kid, not this unit specifically, but one exactly like this. So I have a bit of nostalgia for this particular color of Cybiko and this particular style. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this unit on and get it booted up. All right, there we go. So Cybiko's booted up. You may have noticed that the rumble motor is working. Well, that's because I've replaced it with one of these. Pretty standard 6mm by 10mm rumble motors. They seem to have a fairly wide input range of about 1.5 to 3.6 volts. Which is just perfect because the Cybiko runs the rumble motor directly off of the batteries. There's a switching transistor that the CPU just toggles, and so we will be replacing these into our other units. So if we take a look here, one of the things that we can do is just, if we go over to the Uploader and File Manager, go ahead and start this up. And I will hit the question mark key to bring up the info screen. So there we have it. Flash total 1014568 bytes, otherwise known as 1 megabyte of internal flash. As you can see, I do not have the expansion card plugged into this unit. It does still work fine with the expansion card, but just to prove that that 1 megabyte is not coming from the expansion card, it is just not there. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at what I've done on the inside. Okay, so here we have the inside of the Cybiko that has been fixed. As a recap from previous videos, we fixed the battery traces on all of the units. So this one just has a little bit of solder on these. This one was not so bad. This one had the dead flash chip. And I've also replaced the rumble motor. The rumble motor in these tend to always get seized up because they are just in such close proximity to these leaky batteries. And this is normally one of those victims. But good to know that these motors here are a drop-in replacement and pretty cheap on Amazon. I got a whole pack of 10, I think for about $8. So that's a pretty good deal there. And if we take a closer look, I'll try and get this in focus, but you can make out the model number there of the flash chip, that AT45DB081A. And the 081 there is the 8 megabit or 1 megabyte total flash. So I think we're going to go ahead and open up the other two blue units and replace the flash chips in those, and let's get started. Okay, so here we have one of our black screen V2 units. This is the one with the good LCD screen on it. The first thing we'll go ahead and do just to make our lives a little bit easier is I'm going to go ahead and remove the connections here for the rumble motor. And that's just to make it easier to work with because we want to separate it from the back case, but also because this motor does not even work. So we'll go ahead and get that old motor connection out of there. Get our other case off to the side. I'll leave the speaker since I've already unmounted it from the Cybiko there. And then we're going to go ahead and remove 3 screws that hold the Cybiko to the main front. So one of them is up here at the top. And we have 2 more in this area. With those screws removed, this will lift right out. Normally you want to keep this upside down because these buttons can be a bit fiddly to get back in place. I'm just going to go ahead and put this back in there and we'll realign that before we put the front back on. So here we actually have the Cybiko out of the case. So one of the things we do have to be very careful of is not cooking our LCD screen. It is somewhat close to the flash chip, but thankfully the flash chip is pretty far down the board here and away from the screen. So hopefully we won't have any issues there. Oh yeah, the flash chip is right here, not that one, but still it is pretty far away from the screen, so we should be fine. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get a little bit of flux on here and get out the hot air gun. Okay, we're going to get a little bit of flux here on the pins of these chips. We don't need a whole lot, and this is really just going to help us when we go to put the chip back on, and also just to make sure that the solder kind of stays put. Helps prevent a good bit of bridging and should make our lives a good bit easier to get this chip off and the new one on. So there we have just a little bit of flux, and we'll go ahead and get the heat gun. Okay, heat gun is going. It is currently set to 360 degrees Celsius. So we're going to go ahead and heat up our chip. As you can see, that flux melts pretty much instantly. And this should not take much to get off the board. And there we go. And doesn't look like there's any bridging, so we successfully got this chip off. Let this cool down for just a second. Okay, and we'll take one of our questionably new 16 megabit flash chips. Questionably just because I think these have been out of production for quite some time, so we're buying new old stock here at best. So we will take our chip and we'll carefully align it. We just want to make sure that the notch or that the logo is facing down, as was the orientation of the chip that we took off. So we'll go ahead and get that aligned onto the board and apply heat. Okay, we have our flash chip all aligned, and now it's just time to apply heat. And through the magic of surface mount soldering, this will hopefully settle right into place. And I believe that's it. Okay, so before we move on, I had an interesting thought. This is the working V1 unit that only has the 512K flash in it. So I was thinking if I take this chip and replace it onto this unit with the bad LCD screen, that might actually be helpful because I could use that unit for other things like Cywig or setting up mesh networking between the other Cybikos. So I think we'll go ahead and remove this flash chip, even though we're kind of risking a working unit. I thought that would be interesting to go ahead and get this unit upgraded to the 2 megabytes. So we'll go ahead and take the motherboard out. Hopefully leave our buttons behind. Actually, is this glued on to the case? Okay, got it apart. Yeah, it looks like whoever repaired the serial port on this, which almost seems like it could have been a factory repair. I don't know if it took a tumble at some point because the DC barrel jack here is quite messed up, so we might replace this with the barrel jack from the black screen unit. But in any event, this unit has come apart. Looks like the buttons have stuck to the front. Let's pop those off. Okay. So let's get this unit prepped and we will remove its working flash chip. Again, this is going to be a little bit dangerous of an idea here to risk a potentially working unit, but we're going to do it in the name of science. So first thing we'll do is get a little bit of flux onto these pins. Like so. And incidentally, it looks like there's these earlier units have a footprint large enough to accommodate another part, although I'm not really sure what that part would have been, because it has a slightly different pin arrangement than the flash chips that we're removing. And we'll get some heat on here. Okay, looks like we might have bridged a couple of pins here on this chip, so we'll need to clean that up before we try and place it onto the other unit. But for now, we'll go ahead and take one of our 16 megabit chips, get that aligned and placed on the board. Okay, flash chip all placed. Let's apply the heat and let the magic of surface mount soldering take over. Looks perfect. Okay, so now we'll take this 4 megabit flash chip and we will place it onto our other black screen unit. Okay, here we have our other black screen unit that has a dead LCD screen. Incidentally, I'm looking at this and it almost seems like the LCD is cracked or has these micro kind of fractures in it. It's very strange. I haven't seen anything quite like that. So let's go ahead and apply some flux. Just a little bit around the edges of this chip. Like so. And apply the heat to get the old dead chip off. There we go, cleanly lifted. Okay, flash chip all aligned. Time to apply the heat and get some SMD magic. Okay, looks perfect to me. So that should be, and we haven't tested them yet, but that should mean all 4 of these Cybikos are working now. I think before we turn off the heat gun, we'll go ahead and do the same thing with our memory card. Go ahead and put one of those 2 megabyte flash chips on here. And then we'll go over to the libretto and start doing some testing. Okay, flash chip all aligned. Now it's time for the magic of heat. Just inspect our job here. Hey, it looks perfect to me. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so before we move on to testing, I just want to go ahead and replace the rumble motors in all of these units. So we're going to go ahead and take this bad, seized up, crusty rumble motor out of here. So we'll go ahead and remove this screw, which holds down a little plate. Holds the motor in place. Get our plate off of there. It actually seems to be stuck. What is this stuck on? Oh, it is stuck on the motor. Yeah, it looks like someone used this white glue all throughout this unit. I'm not really sure why. Let's see if we can... There we go. Okay, and we will slide our old motor out. And we'll go ahead and clean this up with a little bit of IPA. Okay, a little bit of IPA on the end of our Q-tip, and we'll just run it around on the inside here, and that should make pretty quick work of any of that old green crusty that is left over. Get it from this other side. That should be a lot better. So we'll go ahead and solder our little new motor here to the board. So first we'll go ahead and connect our positive lead, and it doesn't matter which orientation these get soldered in, which I'm pretty sure these are backwards anyways, but this is how all the other Cybikos seem to be wired, is with the red wire of the motor here and the red wire of the speaker here. Ultimately, it would just mean that the motor is spinning one direction or another, but since all it needs to do is rumble, I think that will be just fine. Of note here on this particular V1 unit, these pads are a good bit smaller than they are on next generation units. And we'll go ahead and reconnect our speaker wires. Looking a little bit funky, but they should be just fine. Straighten that up a little bit. There's not much, they really don't give you much wire to work with here. So we'll go ahead and reconnect this wire. And now we will slip our motor into this little slot. And the motor does need to be out just a little bit further than the old one. These are just a tiny bit shorter, but it really doesn't seem to make any difference at all. And we'll get our screw. And go ahead and screw this down. And there we have it. There's our new rumble motor installed. So I'm going to go ahead and do this same thing to the other units and get them all buttoned back up, and we will move over to testing. Okay, so before we move on to testing, one last thing is let's address the batteries, because these replacement batteries, they all have a problem in that the positive terminal is like a millimeter or a half a millimeter too short, and it just does not make contact with the terminals. And so I've been using these pieces of tin foil, and first of all, not great tin foil inside of repaired electronics here. But what I tested is can I add just a little bit of solder to the end of these batteries? And the answer is yes, I can. And does this solve the problem? Yes, it absolutely does. And this actually, I think, helps it make better contact with these, because the tin foil was just creating problems where the Cybiko would say the batteries are always dead, or the batteries would just not work properly, or the unit could be unstable. So our little tin foil here was just not making good electrical contact. So I think we're going to go ahead and just add a little bit of tin to the top of these two batteries, and we'll get right to it. Okay, so to get solder on the end of these batteries, we will take them and we'll just use a pair of pliers here just to quickly hold this upright a little bit, just to give a little bit of stabilization. And I'm going to take a little bit of solder, just a little bit. I have noticed that the first time that I tried this, I used a little too much and the battery was too tight. So there is a very fine line between this being the perfect solution and this being a bad solution. So unfortunately, we will have to apply a good amount of heat here to this battery terminal to get the solder to stick. But the nice thing is this is not directly, I mean, it's pretty close to being connected to the battery, but there is a small amount of space in between this and the actual battery itself. And I think we'll use that trade-off to help us out. So I'm just going to heat up a tiny amount of solder and flow it as evenly as I can on the top of this terminal. And I think that should do it. So let's go ahead and do that to our other battery. So apply a little bit of solder and get this on there. Again, just a tiny, tiny amount of solder, just enough to cover the surface. Okay, I think that should be perfect. So let's take these two batteries, let us cool down just a second. I'm going to go ahead and pop these in, and hopefully this works on the first try. So go ahead and pop this battery in, and I can feel that it made connection with that terminal. And we'll go ahead and pop in our other battery, like so. I can feel that it made connection with that terminal. And I'll go ahead and turn it on, and let's see if that worked. There we go. So that is a quick and easy mod you can do to these replacement batteries to get them working a little bit better electrical contact with the Cybiko. So now we're going to move into testing. Okay, so it is now time to find out if our flash chips worked. To do this, we're going to use the console application, and another interesting piece of software written by Tim, the creator of the Cybiko for PC emulator, has written a tool that we can boot the Cybiko from. It's a operating system image, a .boot file. And with that, we can perform a good bit of diagnostics on the Cybiko. It'll actually tell us exactly which flash chip we have if it was detected. And with that, we can also use it to format or erase the flash and take dumps or copy a dump of the flash back to the Cybiko should you corrupt your memory. So let's go ahead and get our serial cable connected. And we'll go ahead and connect power. Okay, so this is actually a good message already. It's already saying that it detected the flash, but it can't find the Cybiko boot files, which is to be expected because it is a blank chip. So we're going to go ahead and boot this using the Cybiko tool. We use the V2 file because this is a V2 unit. So we'll go ahead and open that up, let it boot up, and let's see what it says. Hey, that's great news. It has detected the flash chip, the AT45DB161. It knows that it is 2,112 kilobytes, and it gives us the memory layout. So I think we can use this and just go ahead and run the auto update application to go ahead and format this Cybiko and bring it back to working order. So we'll go ahead and close out of the console application and we will open up the auto update. I can find it. It is in this folder. Here we go, Cybiko auto update. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do a level 3 for full update because there is absolutely nothing on this flash anyways. And we'll click OK. And now it's going to want me to reset the Cybiko. So I'll just push a little pin in the side here and push the reset button and let it boot up. And yeah, this SRAM test just takes forever. I'm not sure exactly what type of test it's running, but it always runs this SRAM test before it attempts to use the auto update application. So we just kind of have to wait. Okay, so now it is loading a CyOS file. Awesome. Looks like it's sending... Okay, so it looks like it's sending the flash file that is on the 256 kilobyte flash chip that is in the V2 units. And that chip is in place of one of the SRAM chips that you would find on the V1 unit. So it's sending that file over first. So we'll go ahead and let that complete. Okay, looks like it's almost done here. I think the next thing it's going to do is go ahead and try to, I guess it's going to boot up into a different image here. And then the next thing it's going to want to do is test and erase the flash chip, the new one that we just installed, the 2 megabyte flash chip. So we'll let this complete. Okay, looks like we had a problem here. I'm not sure what happened. So for some reason it did not pass this stage. So I think we'll go ahead and try to use the console application and Tim's Cybiko tool to erase and test the flash chip. So let's go ahead and select our boot file here. And I will push the reset switch. Okay, so we will type help to see all of the commands, and now we will do a flash atmel info, which should give us that same information from before. So it's detecting the chip, and now we will try just a test. Now it's erasing the chip. Okay, so it was able to successfully erase, verify, program, and verify the chip. So I'm just going to go ahead and just make sure that the chip is fully erased running this flash atmel erase command. So it's going to erase the chip one more time, and then we will try the auto update. Excellent. Let's go ahead and quit out of the console application, And we will start up the auto update again. Select level 3. And we will push our reset button. And test the SRAM and wait. Alright, looks like this failed again. So I have one more idea. So we're going to exit out of that and go back to the console application. And this time we're actually going to attempt to boot the actual operating system. Or I wonder if these files have that same command. So let's try opening up this comp119.boot. So this one is for the V2 unit, and the comp114 is for the V1 unit. So let's see if we can boot up this image. I'm not sure what this block header check failed message means. I'm gonna reboot this so it stops spamming the console. So it is detecting the flash. Let's try booting the actual operating system that it uses. So we will go into our 119 folder and our system pack, or no, our system? Let's try booting this file directly. Okay, I don't think it's able to boot an image this large. No. Okay, so let's try booting back into the Cybiko tool. Okay, so I think we'll try to send a backup of a V2 unit. And I will send the flash atmel file. And let's see if this works. No, it immediately errored out at 1024. That's not right. Try to erase the chip here again. Okay, let's try sending that file one more time. This flash atmel file, if I go to details, this should be 512K. Okay. Let's open that. No, see, it's getting stuck immediately after 1024. Well, that's not good. Wonder if it means this flash chip has problems. We're going to boot the Cybiko V1. Go ahead and open that and reboot our Cybiko. Okay, and we will do help. And we will now try to send a memory image from, I believe it's from this Cybiko, yeah. So let's see if I can send the flash atmel that I backed up earlier. No, it's getting stuck again. Is this a problem with this version of the tool? It's just strange. I'm going to cancel this. Okay, let's see if I can find the previous version of this tool. Potentially that is what's causing our problem here. Okay, I believe these are the previous versions. So let's try booting this file instead. Okay, so this is the 1.05, and this should be the 1.04. Go ahead and reboot. Wait for this to load. Okay, so 1.04, and we should still have the same commands, at least the ones we're interested in. And let's try to send this memory image again. No, it's getting stuck at the same error. What is going on? Does it not like these 2 megabyte chips? Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of research here and come back and see if we can figure this out. Okay, so some time has passed and I've been doing some testing off camera, a little bit of debugging with the help of Tim, absolute legend. He's the creator of the Cybiko tool that we've been using to debug and manage the flash of the Cybiko units. And apparently there was a bug with respect to the AT45DB161 chip, the 2 megabyte chips. There was actually a bug in the Cybiko tool. And so with that, I was actually able to restore both of these units. So this one was already working. This green one or yellow one has the 1 megabyte flash chip, and the launch model here, the smoke gray, has a 2 megabyte flash chip. And we can see we have a friend online, so yay, friends. But if we go over to, on both of these units, and we'll just do this at the same time, they have slightly different applications. So the, let's see if we go over to the uploader and file manager on both. Go ahead and open that up. And I guess it takes just a little bit longer for the uploader file manager to load. Probably just more I put a lot of applications now on this smoke gray unit. But if we hit this help button, here we see on this one 2094592 bytes total of flash, and on this one 1014568 total flash. So that's fantastic. The 2 megabyte chip seems to work perfectly in the Cybiko, and it really opens up a world of possibilities because the original 512K flash was just so limiting in these units as to be borderline unusable. It's one of those things that makes you wonder if it's what ultimately led to kind of the demise of the Cybiko, because one of the things is you could only hold, you know, a handful of games and applications on these units, and as a result, you would be constantly trying to download applications back to your computer and put new ones on there, and it was just overall kind of a mess. So let's go over to chat, and hopefully we can talk to each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, look at that. So we got a message from the RR1 unit, and there we get a message from the RR2 unit. So that's fantastic. So these are 2 perfectly working Cybiko units, wireless communications working just great. So that is very, very nice. So we're going to put these 2 aside, and now we're going to focus on our remaining. This is a V2 unit where I have put in the 2 megabyte flash, but it is not behaving properly because for whatever reason the auto update application just it needs a flash that is somewhat formatted in order to detect and erase and write the new files to that flash. So we're going to go through that process on this one. And we were also able to repair this black screen unit. It is the screen is quite damaged, but I took the 512K flash from my smoke gray unit here, and placed it inside this unit, formatted it, and now this unit is working perfectly as well. You might ask, well, what good is a Cybiko with a dead screen on it? Well, we can use this for things like Cywig, or just for some general testing, because now we have a unit that we can mess around with a bit, leave connected to the computer, and not feel like it's a waste because, well, it just doesn't have a working screen. It would never be a working Cybiko ever again as a handheld unit, so we can use this one for some cool wireless applications, and I hope to do a little bit of that in a future video. So let's get right to it. Okay, before we begin, I'm going to go ahead and put these two batteries into this unit. Just notice some strangeness if you're trying to update the flash and generally format the Cybiko, that there seems to be some instability sometimes when running off just the power cord. So we're going to go ahead and put these batteries in this unit, just kind of a bit of redundant power going to the unit here. As a side note, the best way I found to insert the batteries is with the positive side first. And that's because there's like a little catch here and it tends to get caught on the side of the battery as you insert it. So we're just going to go ahead and put this one in, positive side first, click it down. And we'll put in our other battery, positive side first, click it down, and the unit is attempting to power on. Of course, it's not going to actually complete, so we'll go ahead and put it in our little holder here, connect up our power, and our serial cable, and we should start seeing some boot messages. Yep. So again, this unit is detecting the fact that it has the flash chip, but it is just, completely blank, so there's nothing for it to load off of. So we're going to load a new version of Tim's Cybiko tool here. Looks like I was messing around with some Cywig files. So we'll go and load our Cybiko tool for the V2 unit. We'll go ahead and open that up and boot. Fantastic. Okay, so again, we get some very good debug messages here. We know that this was the V2 units have an additional 256K flash, and this is in place of one of the 256K SRAM chips from the V1 units. So this is where the actual .boot, the CyOS file itself lives, and it has correctly detected the AT45DB161 2 megabyte or 16 megabit flash chip here. So what we wanted to test is, and we'll go ahead and do a flash atmel info. We should get that same information. And we're going to do a flash atmel erase. And we wanted to see if there was something weird going on with the way that the Cybiko tool erases the flash memory. So hopefully after this completes, we'll load up the auto update and see if that's working. All right, so it has successfully erased the flash chip. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the console application. And we will start up the auto update. Okay, and we're going to select level 3. Again, this unit is completely blank, so there wouldn't be anything for this tool to be able to reuse anyways. Click OK, and we will hit our reset button. And the first thing it's going to do is start some testing of the SRAM. Again, for whatever reason, the output here is a little bit different between the V1 and the V2 units. I'm not really sure why that is, but we'll let this complete and then we should continue through the process. Okay, so now it's going to boot this file and hopefully we will be able to continue to the next step. So it's waiting for this prompt string, so it's waiting for a response from the Cybiko that everything is okay hardware-wise and that it is ready to communicate with the flash chip. Sometimes this takes a couple of moments here, so we'll just give it a little bit of a wait. Okay, so that didn't work, but this was somewhat to be expected because we used the Cybiko tool to erase it. Tim, I believe, is working on a format command for the Cybiko tool. But in the meantime, we're going to try something else. He sent me a Blake memory image file. So we're going to load back into the console application. and we will reboot with the Cybiko tool. So go ahead and open that up, and we will reset our Cybiko. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to send a complete memory image of the 2 megabyte flash. Let's go to my V2 folder, and I have a blank flash atmel file that is formatted, a formatted memory image file. I'll open that up and send it. And yeah, Tim was able to fix the bug with sending files to the flash, so it's no longer getting stuck at that 1024 bytes. So now this should load. It's going to take a little bit to send the full 2 megabytes over serial. So we'll come back as this is getting closer to finishing, and hopefully this works. Okay, so this has been going for about 10 or 15 minutes now. It's just about done. No errors, so it is successfully copying over this file. So hopefully this lets us run the auto update. Okay, so file was successfully received. So we're going to quit out of the console application again and go back to auto update. Again, we'll select level 3, click OK, and reset our Cybiko. And it's going to go through all this SRAM testing. I am going to probably jump cut some of this just so we're not watching the same thing over and over again. Okay, now it is recopying that 256K boot file to the 256K flash. Okay, looks like that was successful. So now it's going to load this CyOS for updating the main flash, the 2 megabyte flash. So let's hope that this file loads and boots up and that we're able to continue. All right, moment of truth coming up is whether or not this will complete this process, this waiting for prompt string. Oh, it's working. Oh, it works. Oh, it worked. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's asking for the Cybiko ID or the serial number on the back of the unit. So let's be really careful and we will enter that in. And that is AADDQFB. And so that's just because the Cybiko does not store the ID of the Cybiko anywhere in the hardware except for the flash. And because this is a brand new flash chip, it has no idea what board it is, what Cybiko it's in. And of course we can put in anything here, but I just prefer to put in what was originally on the Cybiko. It just helps with identifying these. So, awesome. So now it's going to clear the flash memory. This process will take a couple of minutes here. And then it should start sending over all the files. This is fantastic. I'm so excited. Awesome. It finished clearing the flash, and now it's sending over all of those beautiful files to the 2 megabyte chip. Notice that it's only going to send 470K of actual files. That's just because it doesn't know that it has, well, the Cybiko knows that it has a 2 megabyte chip, but these are just standard packages here for the 512K chips that would have originally been in these units. So we're going to let this complete, and then we're going to fire up Cyberload and send over some more applications. Awesome, it finished. So it looks like it's just wrapping up a few pieces of information here, and hopefully this reboots into CyOS. Awesome, it's rebooting, and we see the bars. Hey, CyOS 1.3.57 auto update was successful. Awesome. So we have another repaired Cybiko. Name this unit RR3. We'll blow through these other menus. There we go. Have the desktop. It's charging the batteries. Awesome. So on the Cybiko V2, it'll actually put a few more applications by default because the V2 unit, since they aren't loading the operating system boot file from the main flash, there is a little bit space left over, so it actually makes the V2 units a little bit better than the V1 units in that regard. So I think we'll go ahead and we'll launch Cyberload. Okay, and it's going to update information about the Cybiko here, so we'll just let this complete. And hey, look at that, free space, 1.54 megabytes. So let's find a couple of large games, and we will transfer those over. So we'll go ahead and transfer. Of course, we'll have to get Cylandia. Can't have a Cybiko without Cylandia. So we'll select that one. And we'll do one of my favorite games here, the Space Paradox. Here we go, Space Paradox. We'll transfer these. Awesome, that finished. So it's just going to re-update here information about the Cybiko. Just wanted to transfer some files over just to push that past the initial 512K boundary that it used to have. So here we see Space Paradox and Cylandia are now on the device, 1.33 megabytes free. So let's go ahead and quit out of Cyberload. Cool. All right, so we will disconnect the power and the serial. So, units running off of batteries, no memory card installed currently. If we go to games, you should see our two new games added. So there we go, Cylandia, Space Paradox. Let's go ahead and launch this right quick and give it a quick test. Yeah, listen to that. All right, so games are definitely working. A bit of a Galaxian or Tyrian kind of clone here. Awesome. Exit out of that. Let's take a look at the file manager. So if we go back to Applications and we go to the File Manager, and we go to Info, look at that. Flash total 2094592 bytes. Total free 1.3 megabytes. Awesome. So we have successfully rescued this unit as well. This one had a bad 512K flash unit, and yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, well, that's it. So we have 4 working Cybikos. These two are running off batteries. This one's running off the power adapter. I don't have another power cord, or I'm sure I could find one. But anyways, this unit is working, this one with the black screen. So let's just run a little test while we have all 3 of these units connected. We'll go to chat. And each of these is saying that there's 2 other online users. We'll go ahead and enter the chat here and enter the chat and enter the chat. And here it's showing the other users that are online, so you can directly message these particular people, but I think we'll just send messages to everyone. So we'll do it here from the first unit. There we go. Do it from this unit. There we go. And we'll do it from this unit. So there we go. We have 3 working Cybikos. This one has the 2 megabyte chip, this one has a 1 megabyte, and this one also has a 2 megabyte. And this unit has the 512K chip that we took from this unit. So that is 4 working Cybikos, and I certainly didn't expect that going into it, that we'd actually end up with all of these units working perfectly. Very, very happy about that. Big shout out to Tim. Absolute legend again, the creator of the Cybiko tool, instrumental in getting all of these units back to operation. He has a lot of great info. What is there, an ant? Where did this ant come from? Anyway, there's an ant on this Cybiko. Okay, so big shout out to Tim. Big shout out to the community. There is still a community for Cybiko out there. Even though it has been nearly 20 years or over 20 years since these units were released. If you like this kind of content, I'd really appreciate you considering subscribing. Plan to do some more things with the Cybiko in the future. And as a note here, if you have a Cybiko with a black screen or it's not booting, definitely encourage you to connect it up to the computer with the serial cable. Use the console application to see the output, see if it's attempting to boot, see if it's giving you any errors about the flash. The units with the bad flash, which was this one, and this one, all 3 of these were giving the same error in that the block size was negative and it couldn't detect the flash chip at all. The Cybiko tool also gave the same information that there was just no flash chip detected, the flash was completely dead. So likely what you'll need to do in that case is do what I did and find some replacement flash chips, either the 512K, the 1 megabyte, or 2 megabyte chips. We all know work in these units, so that's fantastic. And with that, well, thank you for watching, and I think we'll end it there. Bye!